I am an American soldier.
I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values.
I will always place this first.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never quit.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
I am disciplined.
I am disciplined.
Physically and mentally tough.
Trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself.
I am an expert and I am a professional.
I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the
enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
There's strong, and there's Army Strong. See what it takes at GoArmy.com.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at rahardin.com. That's the World Wide Web at rahardin.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. 1 free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for point of view.
All right, this is Jessie. Oh, I've got an audio issue. Give me 1 second. Oh, much better, much better. As soon as I heard it, I knew what it was. Sorry about that. I'd been prepping audio and using my speakers rather than wearing my headsets before the show, and I forgot to turn my speakers off. So my audio was feeding back to my microphone, giving you guys kind of a rough start. Well, I'm back with another episode of Jessie's POV. And yep, that's the stack of show prep. I swear it never gets any smaller. Because if I don't cover a story on day 1, I'll keep it over for a day or 2. And if I don't cover it by day 3, usually I'm not going to be bothered. So it's an interesting stack of stuff. And there are some nights I wish I had more time. But then there's other nights like Wednesdays I don't want to leave you short, but I have to because I've got other responsibilities. Alright, first of all, let's get started with the station news. We have a newsletter out. No, really. Station manager Ann and Rick got together and put out a little newsletter. It's right on KLRNRadio.com, and it's under the tag, What's New? And there's even a giveaway. No, seriously, there's a giveaway. So that ought to be interesting. It's a coffee mug. I want it, but I can't enter. So this could be interesting. It really could be. And if you've missed it, we've got a new show called Constitution and Culture, which is on every Wednesday night. Although if you listen to this show, you already know about it because, well, I produce it. So I'm always running off early on Wednesdays. All right, another announcement. We are looking for a new liberal host or two. If you want your own show, we can train you to produce. If not, contact us anyway, because we have a show called Finding Common Ground, which is essentially a weekly debate, a debate between liberal and conservative viewpoints. So please, 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 contact us. We'd love to hear from you. Plus, I believe all our social media is linked at the bottom. Alright, I think that covers all the station news. Now, I missed this last night because I was in a hurry to get on and off the air. So, Scott Harvath, you out there? Well, this is your year, dude. I'm convinced. I am convinced. So I am absolutely convinced for this. And I can't wait see and hear the news that you have kicked cancer to the curb. And I love the picture of the water and the snowfall and the trees you posted on Thankful Thursday. I thought that was pretty cool. I know it was just a retweet, but it was such a beautiful photo. Thank you for sharing it. Alright, moving right along. Yes. We have a story that, okay, I've got to do this one. It's not at the top, it's not Mosul, but I'm going to cover it because it won't take but a couple minutes. And I feel it's imperative. A former Navy sailor imprisoned for taking photos inside a submarine has sought a pardon from Donald Trump, who as a candidate often cited his case as unjust. Now I'm discussing Navy sailor Christian Saucier. He was 29. He was sentenced to 1 year in federal prison. Now what was he sentenced for? He used his cell phone to photograph parts of the sub's nuclear propulsion system while it was docked at the Naval Submarine Base in Groton, Connecticut. Why? Why would he do that? No, he wasn't trying to spread classified information around. He just wanted a couple of photos so he could show his children later in life where he used to work. And unfortunately, his phone got lost and then ended up in the hands of the FBI. Hundreds or thousands of photos service personnel take every year could be considered sensitive. It's normal. The norm is to handle them in-house. It's not normal for this to go outside the UCMJ. So, but this case did. Now, what I've got to say is, Saucier, you might have been able to find some unclassified photos. Goodness knows, I'm all over DVids. I'll bet if you'd looked hard enough, there would have been something there for you could have used. But taking these, I wouldn't have recommended. Alright, so as we know, there is a double standard. Hillary Clinton emails, hundreds of them, thousands of them, versus 9 photographs. And he was convicted of unauthorized retention of national defense information, which is a felony, and received an other than honorable discharge from the Navy, and he faced 10 years in jail. He only received 1. And what happened was he lost his cell phone, and someone found it. The worker brought the cell phone to a retired Navy petty officer who then notified federal agencies about the sensitive submarine pictures. Now this happened back in 2009, was when he took these pictures. So, will he get a pardon? I don't know. I haven't decided how I feel about this one. Do I want sailors to start photographing everything that they're not supposed to? No. Do I want to see a double standard? No. So this could be an intriguing case to keep an eye on. And yes, that noise is me sorting through my show prep. Come on. What else would I be doing? What else? Now, I've got a Brexit story. It's just a brief one, so we are going to cover it before we get on to our usual realm of the Middle East. London's Britain government must get parliamentary approval before starting the process of leaving the European Union, according to the Supreme Court. This will potentially delay Prime Minister Theresa May's plan to trigger exit negotiations by the end of March. This was an 8-3 ruling from the judges. It forces the government to put a bill before Parliament, giving pro-EU politicians a chance to soften the terms of Brexit, which is Britain's exit from the EU. Leave campaigners have objected, saying the Parliament shouldn't have the power to overrule the electorate, which voted to leave the bloc in a June 23rd referendum last year. May had said she would use the centuries-old powers known as royal prerogative to invoke Article 50 of the EU Treaty and launch 2 years of exit talks. Now that power is traditionally held by the monarch, but permits decisions about treaties and other issues to be made without a vote of Parliament. So the case was most important constitutional issue in a generation, clarifying who ultimately wields the power in Britain's system of government. the Prime Minister, her cabinet, or Parliament. Financial entrepreneur Gina Miller sued to force the government to seek parliamentary approval before invoking Article 50, leaving the EU, which would fundamentally change the rights of citizens, and this can't be done without the vote of lawmakers, she argued. May argued the referendum gave her the mandate to take Britain out of the EU, and discussing the details of her strategy with Parliament would weaken the government's negotiating position. Now, the court also ruled that parts of the United Kingdom, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland specifically, do not need to be consulted. The government moved quickly to say it would offer its plans in detail to the House of Commons on Tuesday afternoon. David said the scope of legislation will be narrow in order to limit the chance for amendments that could delay a vote. So, we haven't heard the last of Brexit, and I doubt we will. I doubt we will. Now, constitutional expert Andrew Blick, and this will be the last part of this we go over, an expert on Magna Carta at King's College in London, said that advocates of withdrawal had long argued that leaving the 28-block nation would protect parliamentary sovereignty. They claimed that leaving would promote the principle that UK's parliament is the ultimate source of constitutional authority in the UK. So that principle has now come back to bite them. Moving right along. Yes, we have some North Korea stories. Of course, we've got some Mosul stuff. I've got a couple more Mosul updates. I didn't use all my audio yesterday because you have to realize these press conferences are close to an hour in length. I could never play it all for you, so I sift through and pick out what I feel are the best pieces. Here's something that I found particularly cheerful in that press conference. Yes, I actually found something in that press conference to be happy about. Take a listen.
We are seeing indicators of desertions and other activities that would indicate the structure and the cohesive organization of Daesh starting to crumble.
All right, so Daesh is crumbling. Go coalition. Yes, I said go coalition. In fact, let's see if we can get a round of applause for that one. Yes, go coalition. Now, Daesh has not stopped its barbarism. There's certain things I'm not going to play, but I found this particularly disturbing. If you're listening with a small child, please turn the volume down, put your headphones in, pick it up later. It's not vulgar, but it is disturbing.
I don't know if you know it, but they're enlisting adolescents and handicapped people to do their bidding with suicide vehicle-borne IEDs, and even arming adolescents and having them stay and remain in the vicinity of indirect firing platforms. I've even had one report of a child being chained to an artillery piece.
Yes, they are doing things that despicable. And that wasn't the worst one I heard, but it was the most brazen one I felt I could actually air on my show. No, there was no vulgarity in any of them. Come on. Generals are not known for being vulgar, at least not in public. They're just not. Australia is suggesting the idea of a TPP 12-1 with Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull saying his government is in active discussions with other signatories, including Japan, New Zealand, and Singapore, on how to save the pact. There's also an opportunity for TPP to proceed without the U.S. Certainly there is the potential for China to join the TPP. As you know, President Trump terminated it in line with his election pledges to scrap the quote-unquote job killer pact. The agreement was viewed as a counter to China's rising economic influence. It was signed last year but had not gone into effect. It had not gone into effect. So, TPP, that story may not be over. Alright. Yes, I'm still sorting through show prep. You know I'll do that the whole show, so back off. I've got a couple of Israeli stories, but I am probably going to save them for later in the show. Oh, yes. Here's a good Defense Department story I found today. Deterrence in space is the key to U.S. security. And there were two articles, and they say a lot of the same things, but I wanted to pull them both because they do have separate dates on them, but just barely. One was the 24th of January 2017, and one was on the 26th. So I couldn't find the audio. Trust me, I looked. And the other one says, deterrence in space means no war will be fought there. Space capabilities have created a revolution in military affairs, an environment in which information is key to battle space, and deterrence means war will never be fought in space. That was the commander of U.S. Strategic Command, Air Force General John E. Hyten. He spoke at the university's Center for Security and Cooperation on Stratcom's perspective on the 21st century deterrence in space. That's a mouthful. He says he has two jobs as okay, guys, Strategic Command, Stratcom. Get used to the acronym. You're going to hear it a couple times in this story. So now that I've defined it, I'm going to use it. I have two jobs as commander of Stratcom, he said. Number one is defending America against all threats. Number two is defending and protecting the space environment so space is available for exploration to every generation and every nation. The space domain is critical to every military operation, noting that everything from humanitarian to major combat operations critically depend on space capabilities. You're going, wait a minute, how? You ever hear of GPS? You know that GPS system in your car or on your phone? It's usually, depending on the system, it could be connecting to something called a satellite. Yes, I said satellite. Now where are satellites? Satellites are in space. What, you didn't know that? Well, guess what? They are. Satellites are in space. Moving. So let's continue with a little bit. Hyten said the most important element of space is geosynchronous orbit, a circular orbit 22,300 miles above the planet where satellites appear to be stationary above the surface of the Earth. The orbit is also called, it's called GEO for short. It's important for communications. You like that cell phone of yours? Yeah. Some cell phones are satellite, especially some of the military stuff. It's important for communications, television, radio satellites, and critical military satellites. This is where we do our special communications from, National Command and Control communications to our and control communications to our nuclear business. If someone wants to threaten that, they do something to geosynchronous orbit because of where that orbit is, the debris created will be there forever. Preventing potential aggression in space requires deterrence, Hyten said. We have to deter bad behavior in space. We have to deter conflict in space, especially against adversaries like China and Russia that are building weapons in low Earth orbit and geosynchronous orbit that will deploy from the ground to these areas of space. Stratcom Commander Hyten said he has to figure out how to work with 184,000 people who work under strategic command and how we defend the nation against that kind of threat and how to deter space conflict from ever happening. China has stated publicly its goal is to use space for only peaceful purposes. However, China has also been a vocal supporter of the UN's Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, yet at the same time, they're the most aggressive nation in the world, building weapons that will challenge the United States in space in the future. Alright, this is where I'm going. Hey NASA, we can't even launch our own astronauts into space anymore, folks. For those of you who aren't aware of this, and trust me, if I had Dr. Judy Elmore handy, I'd yank her chain real quick, but I only need a quick comment. We hitch rides with the Russians. Yes, we hitch rides with the Russian to get to the International Space Station. And that is unacceptable. So, that is unacceptable. We need to be able to put our own astronauts into space. To make sure that war never happens in space, the general said the United States has been working since after the first Gulf War in 1990 to 1991 to bolster and build new space capabilities. In February, 3 years ago, we announced the existence of a program called Geosynchronous Space Situational Awareness Program, GSSAP. Oh boy, military between last night's acronym of GIMFLIC or whatever it is to GSSAP. Come on, guys. Can we shorten these acronyms up just a hair? Because they're getting out of paw. Just to illustrate, let's see if I can find last night's illustrious acronym.
Great, sir. And then before we
try it right there.
To your introduction, I just wanted to pass on.
There were some technical abilities.
Secretary of Defense Mattis will embark on his first.
Who cares? We'll get back to Mattis at a later time.
Meet with his counterparts from.
Yes, all right, since I started it, I will play it.
Great, sir. And then before we get to your introduction, I just wanted to pass on another piece of information for all of you. Secretary of Defense Mattis will embark on his first trip as Secretary of Defense on February 1st to meet with his counterparts from two critical U.S. allies, Japan and the Republic of Korea.
That would be Japan and South Korea, folks. All right.
Departing on February 1st,
whatever. Let's try this one.
This morning, it's my pleasure to introduce Major General Joe Martin. He's the CGIFLIC, which is the commanding general of the combined.
Let's hear that again. I mean, really?
say the C-GIFLIC, which is the commanding...
C-GIFLIC? Between that and GSSAP, come on, even I'm getting lost in the alphabet soup, Pentagon. I know you've got to be able to shorten some of these acronyms just a wee bit somewhere. Or at least put out a cheat sheet. Come on. Some reporters aren't based in Gibro speak. And here's another one. Joint Interagency Combined Space Operations Center. JICSPOC. Okay, guys, I love ya. Can we rein them in? I mean, I get USASOC and JSOC. They're at least pronounceable. Some of these. C-GIFLIC? Really? JICSPOC? JICSPOC? I think. Oy vey. Alright, so in October 2015, STRATCOM launched the Joint Interagency Combined Space Operations Center, or JICSPOC, a collaboration among STRATCOM and National Reconnaissance Office, the Air Force Space Command, the Air Force Research Laboratory, and the intelligence community, and commercial data providers. JICSPOC is a place where we experiment on war that extends into space. We understand what it is, according to Heighton. There was no commercial industry to speak of when the Air Force started building its current architectures in the 1990s in response to the first Gulf War. But now there's a huge commercial enterprise with companies that maintain their own satellites, constellations, and provide services such as space launch, satellite imagery, and more. And yes, for those of you unaware, you can purchase satellite imagery of anywhere on the Earth if you do a couple quick Google searches. It ain't cheap, but it can be done. My, oh my, where has the time gone? I just looked up and realized I have blown past the commercial break, so we are going to go pay them bills, and I will see you on the other side. Right, Host Kitty? Yep, Host Kitty agrees. We're going to commercial break.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writers' bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a four-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-757-2782. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-757-2782. That's 877-757-2782.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Thank you for hanging in there with me while we paid those bills. Now, you want to know, and I mentioned this earlier, how everything is critically dependent on space. All right. Satellites to global positioning systems, space has transformed human life and the military in the 21st century, Hyten said. As the U.S. commander of U.S. Strategic Command, Hyten oversees the Global Command. He explains every drone, fighter jet, bomber, ship, and soldier is critically dependent on space to conduct their own operations. All cell phones use space, and GPS command systems are overall managed at Stratcom. No soldier has to worry about what's over the next hill, he said, describing GPS capabilities which have fundamentally transformed humans' way of life. Now, remember Black Hawk Down? Part of what went wrong, or at least so I've been told, was that they were unable to navigate the city. And that was due in part to lack of adequate road maps and GPS. Okay? I've heard that said. I can't find the source at the moment. However, as you know, there were many people killed. It was one of the bloodiest days of American Special Forces. So, what can I say? GPS is pretty important to our fighting force. Alright? Moving right along. So that's how space impacts everyday stuff in the military. GPS. How many of you use your phones to navigate? Yeah, you're relying on GPS too. So let's move along because we've spent enough time on the dispute in space. Iran, Russia, and Turkey agree to enforce Syria's ceasefire, but don't explain how. 2 days of talks over the Syrian civil war concluded with an agreement by Iran, Russia, and Turkey to enforce a fragile partial ceasefire, but neither Syrian government nor the rebel fighters, who briefly met face-to-face for the first time in nearly 6 years of war, signed the agreement. While the three powers agreed to establish a mechanism to monitor and enforce the nearly month-old ceasefire, they did not say what the mechanism should look like, deferring that issue for now. And haven't I been saying for months Iran's in the middle of this Syria mess? Here's proof. Remember your Syria scorecard? You got that scorecard handy? Let's pull it out and take a look. You have Bashar al-Assad, who is the current head of the Syrian government. Now, of course, former President Barack Obama notoriously said Assad must go. He also did that notorious red line that he never enforced. So then Russia came in and said, oh, we'll prop up Assad. And now Russia and Turkey are frenemies. They want to normalize relations, but stuff keeps going haywire. You have everything from a plane being shot down to a Russian ambassador being assassinated live on Turkish television. So they're trying, but they're not getting too far. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Now, for those of you who were listening last night, you know I mentioned a library story that I couldn't find the audio for? Well, I've got it tonight. And here was the reporter's question that prompted it.
And then, sorry, just to go back, I'd be remiss if I didn't follow up. If we strike a school that ISIS is using, how do we ensure that there are no civilians also being targeted?
All right, so the question to the general doing the briefing was, how do we know civilians aren't being targeted?
They've kicked out the people or the service that was in that particular structure out. In other words, it was formerly known as a school, formerly known as a hospital, but no longer is functioning as such. And they've turned that into a facility that they conduct supply operations, command and control operations.
So Daesh kicks out whatever was there. Now here's the library story.
In the after effects of some of these strikes, as we've been able to go into Mosul University and look at the library and see that that building had not been a library for 2 years. It had been a Daesh repository of records and other artifacts that they chose to keep there.
Moving right along with the Mosul update, a question came up about Iraqis and conducting bridging operations. Let's take a listen.
Do the Iraqis have the ability to conduct bridging operations independent of coalition advisors?
All right, now if you remember, all the bridges into West Mosul have been destroyed. And we have helped them in the past with bridging operations. However, here's the latest update.
In the past, they needed a little bit of assistance, a little bit of advisory skills, a little bit of help, and the coalition was there to provide that advisory capacity. But their most recent bridge that they laid a month and a half, 2 months ago, they did all by themselves. The engineering regiment did it all by themselves. And so they have the capacity and the capability to do that all by themselves now.
And let's hear it, a round of applause for the Iraqi engineers who have learned a trick or two. So what can I say? Iraqis are definitely getting better. They're definitely picking up in their game a bit. And that's important because while we are there now, who knows how long we'll stay. I mean, we still have troops in Europe. In fact, we have units deployed over in the area of Poland and other areas, other countries in that region right now. For those of you who don't remember, we do have them there. However, how long we're going to stay in Iraq remains to be seen. That is something I don't have any updates on. However, it's going to be an interesting story to keep watching. And notice that Syria was not listed in this. Iran, Russia, and Turkey agree to enforce ceasefire. No mention of Syria. Syria is taking its marching orders from Russia. Moving right along. For those of you who've heard about the U.S. safe zones in Syria that President Trump would like to invoke, Russia urges caution. Oh yes, Russia urges caution. The Trump administration's expressed an interest in setting up safe zones for civilians in Syria was greeted Thursday with caution by Russia and Turkey, which have taken the lead in the latest peace efforts to end the Mideast country's devastating 6 years war. Turkey said it had always supported the idea. Both Ankara and Moscow warned such plans would require careful consideration. A senior European Union official said the bloc would consider such plans when they come. The idea of safe zones proposed by both Republican candidate Donald Trump and Democrat candidate Hillary Clinton during the U.S. campaign was ruled out by the Obama administration for fear it would bring the United States into direct conflict with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and Russia, which has been waging an air campaign to aid Assad's forces since September of 2015. So, who knows what's going to happen? In theory, it's a great idea. Now, Trump, as you recall, did suspend visas for Syrians and others. The order is expected, and it is also expected to direct the Pentagon and State Department to produce a plan for safe zones in Syria and the surrounding area within 90 days. No further details are currently available at this time. I repeat, no further details. You know, as soon as I get them, you'll hear about it. A Turkish official said his country has always supported the idea of safe zones in Syria, but would need to review any U.S. plans before commenting. And I can understand that. Okay, this host says you don't agree to something without knowing what's in it. And I could make a comment here, but I'll leave that alone. I'm thinking of legislation passed here in the United States without knowing what's in it. And you all know what legislation I'm referring to. Oh yes, I'm fishing through my stack. North Korean defector says elite are turning their backs on Kim Jong-un. North Korean elites have turned their backs on leader Kim Jong-un, and dissent is on the rise. Now, personally, this show host would love to see the country of North Korea collapse, but that would lead to the question of would China intervene? If North Korea is collapsing, would China prop it up, and would we be involved in another war-type situation on the Korean Peninsula? Despite official efforts to tightly restrict the flow of information into the country, control over the residents has been collapsing due to information seeping in. And this is according to Tae Young-ho, who was the number 2 at the London Embassy and defected last year to Seoul, South Korea. Low-level dissent or criticism of the regime until recently unthinkable is becoming more frequent. Tae added, Discussing reasons for defection, he said that his two university-age sons were the trigger for his decision to abandon the regime. He said that after coming to London, his son asked them why North Korea did not allow internet, why there was no proper legal system in the country, and why officials were executed without trial. He added his sons were mocked by their British friends over North Korea's system of government as well as their haircuts. This brought a kind of debate inside my family. My sons kept asking me why, and I had to tell them the truth. Hay said that unlike many North Korean diplomats, he was able to bring both his children to the UK with him, which spurred him to act. North Korean diplomats posted overseas are usually forced to leave one of their children in Pyongyang as a hostage. Yes, as a hostage, because if you step out of line, your child will be subject to potential execution or years of imprisonment at a labor camp. When Kim Jong-un first came to power, I was hopeful he would make reasonable and rash decisions to save North Korea from poverty. But I soon fell into despair watching him purging officials for no proper reason. Hay was quoted as saying, "The former deputy ambassador is the highest-ranking North Korean official to defect and enter public life in South Korea since the 1997 defection of Hwang Jung-yop, who is responsible for crafting Jusei, North Korean state ideology, which blends elements of Marxism and ultranationalism." Hay also warned that Kim Jong-un regime would have to be removed in order to solve the nuclear weapons crisis on the Korean peninsula. North Korean officials have said they could try and target the U.S. mainland if American nuclear forces mobilized against them. While expert opinion is divided on how close Pyongyang is to perfecting the technology needed to achieve such an endeavor, and whether Kim would actually do so if he could. Hay called for strengthened international cooperations and sanctions to put pressure on Pyongyang, as well as disseminating information inside the country. Now, just as a reminder, folks, North and South Korea are still technically at war. Yes, there was a ceasefire rather than a peace accord. And from time to time, you see evidence of this. Now, the Israel story I promised you. Israel okays 2,500 new West Bank settlement homes. Tel Aviv, Israel, on Tuesday unveiled plans for 2,500 housing units in the West Bank, the second announcement of new construction in the occupied territory since President Donald Trump took office. The announcement of construction of the new units in Judea and Samaria, the biblical names for the areas the Israeli government considers Jewish by right, will likely be viewed by much of the international community as an obstacle to securing a permanent peace between Israelis and Palestinians. The Palestinians and most of the international community will consider all settlements illegal. On Sunday, Jerusalem municipality announced the construction of about 6,500 homes in contested East Jerusalem. It's important to note that Jerusalem is a divided city. There's an east sector which is primarily under Palestinian control and a western sector which is primarily under Israeli control. The Trump administration is seen as more sympathetic to the current Israeli government than was former President Barack Obama. And Trump has supported moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. However, this potential move has brought criticism from wonderful countries such as Iran. Transferring the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem would be a public, more explicit than ever declaration of war against Islam. Sadir said in a Tuesday statement, "Oh, please keep in mind this is a Press TV article." Yes, I repeat, this is a Press TV article I'm quoting. touching on President Donald Trump's pledge to recognize Jerusalem, or Al-Quds is the other name for Jerusalem. And Iranian even has a unit they call the Quds Force, just to be a slap in the face to Israel. It's called the Jerusalem Force. Sadr urged the Cairo-based Arab League as well as the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to either take a decisive stand on the issue or be dissolved. The Sharia cleric, yes, Shia cleric, called for the immediate closure of the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. If Washington goes ahead with the plan to move its embassy to Jerusalem, so that makes me worry about our people stationed at the embassy, because we have over 5,000 military stationed at that embassy, not to mention the civilian personnel that run it. On January 14, a spokesman for Abbas's Fatah party warned that if Trump administration goes ahead with the embassy move, it will open the gates of, you know what I'm going to say, double hockey stick land. H-E double hockey stick land. Osama Khashoggi said Trump's campaign promise, if implemented, will kill any chance for peace and stability in the region. The Palestinian people will not allow that to happen. Okay, I recently saw a survey of the Palestinian people, and more than 70% of them, or approximately 70% of them, thought that the only way they would ever have peace and security was to keep doing what they're doing and using violence. Now, personally, I understand that there are military conflicts and military goals for things. However, I'm sorry, I don't think blowing yourself and a busload of civilians up is the proper way to go about things. One more article, and then we are headed on our way out, because the Jen and Rick show is hot on my heels. Oh yeah, you know to keep it tuned here to KLRNRadio.com. And just as a reminder, when I'm not on the air talking to you, you can always find me on Twitter at Jessie's POV. You can drop me a line at jessiespov.com, and don't forget to head on over to KLRNRadio.com. Check out the newsletter and how you can win Station Manager Ann's own coffee mug, or at least one exactly like it. Alright. And this one's I had to laugh at this story, and I thought it was just a cute one to end things on. Last summer, Israel's religious authorities issued a ruling that raised doubts about Ivanka Trump's conversion to Judaism, but after her father was elected president, they have changed their tune, raising eyebrows among activists who have long lobbied the rabbinical establishment to be more tolerant towards converts. President Trump's daughter converted to Judaism under a prominent Orthodox rabbi in Manhattan before her marriage to Jared Kushner, an observant Jew. In its ruling last July, an Israeli government religious court rejected the legitimacy of another conversion by the same rabbi. Although it didn't directly affect Ivanka Trump, it raised questions as to whether Israel's powerful religious establishment would recognize her as being Jewish. According to the new proposed plan, her conversion will be certified without the need for additional checks, the recent announcement said. Israeli activists say the sudden policy change appears to be an attempt to curry favor with the new U.S. president. Ivanka Trump's husband has been appointed a senior advisor to Trump and is expected to focus on Israeli-Palestinian peace efforts. The timing is certainly suspicious, said Rabbi Seth Farber, director of an organization that represents converts seeking recognition from the rabbinate. My biggest fear is that the rabbinate will find some way for Ms. Trump to recognize Ivanka Trump's conversion, but leave thousands of other converts behind, simply saying they're not Jewish enough. All right, folks, on that note, yeah, you know what's coming. Reminder, you can always find me on Twitter at Jessie's POV, and head on over to KLRNRadio.com and check out the latest and greatest. Our newsletter, What's New? I'm out of here!